They know that I don't want any pity. They never say, "Oh, Mom, you're not walking well today."
She was the girl with the bow in her hair, the face that lit up millions of TV screens as America's original sweetheart. But behind Annette Funicello's dazzling smile was a story few ever knew. A tale of fierce loyalty, heartbreaking love, silent suffering, and a quiet strength that Hollywood rarely honors. She broke records, faced betrayal, defied industry pressure, and inspired generations, yet carried it all with grace. From Disney darling to brave warrior battling a devastating illness, her journey was anything but a fairy tale. This is the untold story of Annette Funicello, the icon who never stopped shining, even in the dark. She danced, she sang, she smiled, and America fell in love with her. But behind the wholesome image of Annette Funicello, Disney darling, chart-topping pop star, and teen idol, was a woman quietly fighting battles that would have broken most. Not just against a devastating illness, but against jealousy, betrayal, and a Hollywood that tried to own her. Before the fame, before the beach parties and Disney stardom, Annette Joan Funicello was just a shy girl from Utica, New York. Born on October 22, 1942, to proud Italian-American parents, she grew up in a tight-knit working-class neighborhood where the smell of garlic and fresh bread filled the air and Italian was spoken as often as English. That warmth, that sense of family and loyalty, shaped Annette before the spotlight ever found her. When Annette was 4, her family moved west to California's San Fernando Valley, not for fame, but for a better life. Her shyness followed her there, but her mother had an idea: dance lessons. At first, it was just to help her gain confidence. But when she stepped on stage, something clicked. That shy little girl transformed under the lights, and the world would never be the same. In December 1955, at just 13, she performed Swan Lake at the Starlight Bowl in Burbank. Unbeknownst to her, Walt Disney himself was sitting in the audience. He wasn't looking for ballerinas, he was looking for stars. And when he saw Annette glide across the stage, he saw something he couldn't quite explain. Grace, charm, a kind of magic. Within days, she got the call. He wanted her for his new TV show, The Mickey Mouse Club. Over 200 kids auditioned. Annette wasn't first, second, or third. She was the last one chosen. Number 24. But Disney had a feeling. "She's real," he said, and he was right. Soon, Annette was earning $160 a week, more than many adults. With royalties, reruns, and appearances, she became a millionaire before she turned 21. But it wasn't her paycheck that shocked the studio. It was her fan mail. Thousands of letters poured in each month, more than any other Mouseketeer. In fact, only Elizabeth Taylor got more mail, and she was already a Hollywood icon. Walt Disney once called her into his office, confused. "Do you have a lot of Italian relatives?" he asked. "Because the mail for you is unbelievable." It wasn't just the fan letters. Boys across the country were sending rings and watches, proposing through the mail. She returned them all. What fans saw wasn't an act. Annette really was that kind, that genuine. She wasn't just dancing in background numbers anymore. By 1956, she was leading entire episodes. In Adventure in Dairyland, she explored rural farm life in Wisconsin. It was wholesome, down-to-earth, and audiences adored it. She followed that with roles in Spin and Marty, Zorro, and countless Disney specials. She wasn't just a kid star, she was the star. But every fairy tale ends. In 1958, the Mickey Mouse Club aired its final episode. On set, the cast hugged and cried. Annette cried the hardest. "I never cried so hard in my life," she later said. Most Mouseketeers were let go. Not Annette. Disney called her back into his office. She feared she was being fired. Instead, he handed her a new contract for her own breakfast cereal. She wasn't being released. She was being elevated. Behind the scenes, her teenage years were filled with more than contracts and cameras. A secret romance bloomed with fellow Mouseketeer Lonnie Burr. At a party, he gave her a ring. They went steady for a few hours until her father intervened. But Lonnie still gave her something no one else ever did: her first kiss. They'd reunite decades later in the 1980s for a TV movie, a rare reunion that reminded everyone of simpler days. In 1959, her career took a dramatic turn. Annette released a song called Tall Paul, just 1 minute and 38 seconds long, it became a national sensation, peaking at number 7 on the Billboard charts. She became the first female singer to break into the top 10 with a rock and roll single. It launched a musical career few saw coming. Dick Clark invited her to join his Caravan of Stars tour alongside Paul Anka, Duane Eddy, and the Coasters. On her birthday in Houston, they paused the concert to celebrate her on stage. But fame wasn't always fun. Rowdy crowds and chaos followed. Through it all, Annette just kept singing. Disney saw her potential and doubled down. He hired the Sherman Brothers to write her next hits, the same duo who would go on to win an Oscar for Mary Poppins. In 1960, they launched a trilogy of themed albums, Hawaiianette, Italianette, and Danceanette. Pineapple Princess became another hit, staying on the charts for 9 weeks. But nothing in her life would compare to Paul Anka. Annette was just 17 when she met the 18-year-old heartthrob. They clicked instantly. What began as innocent phone calls turned into marathon conversations, sometimes 3 hours long. They were in love, young, famous, and hopelessly attached. Paul wrote "Put Your Head on My Shoulder" and puppy love for her. When people mocked their relationship, calling it childish, he turned the insult into a hit song. But their love faced a powerful opponent, Disney. Annette's contract forbade real dating. Paul wasn't even allowed to kiss her without a chaperone nearby. He once bribed a staffer to distract her mother just to steal a kiss. It wasn't just frustrating, it was suffocating. Eventually, the pressure was too much. Paul couldn't commit. She wanted marriage. He wasn't ready. Annette moved on and married Jack Gilardi, Paul's agent. Still, the pain lingered. In a 2024 interview, Paul said, "She wanted to marry me. I just couldn't do it." When Frankie Avalon later told him, "She did love you," Paul replied softly, "Well, I loved her." Annette's new life with Gilardi began with fireworks, and not all good. When their wedding made headlines, Peanuts creator Charles Schulz drew Linus crying over her marriage, saying, "I can't stand it. Annette Funicello has grown up." But grown up didn't mean ready. Annette later admitted she still felt 16, still called Dolly, her father's nickname, by her husband. She let Gilardi make all the decisions. Their marriage was not a partnership but a product of power imbalance. Still, they had 3 children, Gina, Jack Jr., and Jason. One bright spot during this time was Frankie Avalon. Their on-screen chemistry was iconic. From Beach Party to Muscle Beach Party, they ruled the teen film scene. But off-screen, Frankie became something more, a lifelong friend, godfather to her daughter, and a loyal presence through the darkest days. In 1963, Beach Party smashed expectations, pulling in $1.2 million on a modest budget. It was bigger than The Birds and The Nutty Professor, but success came with a price. Just before a live national performance, Annette's custom outfit mysteriously vanished. She had to wear a backup that didn't fit. She looked uncomfortable, and the audience noticed. Later, it was revealed that a jealous co-star had hidden the outfit on purpose. The attacks didn't stop. Producers pushed for racier scenes. They wanted bikinis, belly buttons, and flirtier dances. Annette refused. Her contract forbade exposing her navel, an unthinkable rule today, but one she embraced. "I had to protect my fans," she said. The backlash was immediate. She was pulled from promotional materials and replaced in some roles. She never complained, never named names, but the jealousy was real. Some stars whispered she only got roles because she was Disney's favorite. Maybe she was, but she carried the burden of perfection every day. While others scrambled for attention, she bore the weight of an image she never asked for but always honored. By the 1980s, her marriage had crumbled. In 1981, after nearly 18 years, she divorced Gilardi. Quietly, without scandal, she kept the children close to their father and began 5 years as a single mom, driving carpools, volunteering at school, and finally finding her own voice. Then came Glenn Holt, a horse trainer she had met decades earlier. Glenn re-entered her life when she returned to the racetrack. Both divorced, and in their 40s, they began again, slowly. In 1986, they married. At the reception, Mickey Mouse danced with the bride. It was perfect, but happiness was short-lived. In 1987, Annette, then 45, began feeling dizzy, weak. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. She told no one. For 5 years, She smiled for the cameras while her body betrayed her. Rumors spread. She looked unsteady. People whispered about drinking problems. Tabloids were merciless. Finally, in July 1992, she broke her silence. In a tearful 2020 interview, she revealed the truth. She had MS, and suddenly, the nation that once adored her fell in love with her all over again. She had hidden her pain not out of shame, but to protect her fans. That same year, Disney honored her as a Disney legend, the first Mouseketeer to receive the award. Months later, she received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Annette Funicello's greatest performance didn't happen on stage or screen. It happened in silence, in struggle, and in love. As her health deteriorated, she refused to be defined by her illness. Instead, she became a powerful voice for others suffering in the shadows of neurological disease. In 1993, when she publicly founded the Annette Funicello Research Fund for Neurological Disorders, it wasn't a celebrity PR move. It was deeply personal. She made sure the fund operated with one clear principle. Not a single dollar would go to overhead or salaries. Every cent had to go directly to research. She was adamant about that. Annette didn't just lend her name, she lent her soul. And by her side every step of the way was Glenn Holt. Glenn wasn't just her husband, he was her lifeline. A former horse trainer, Glenn knew about endurance, patience, and care. But nothing could have prepared him for what was to come. As Annette's MS progressed, it robbed her of nearly everything, her ability to walk, to speak, to eat. Yet Glenn never flinched. When she could no longer stand, he built a custom wheelchair using parts from a harness racing seat, engineering something unique to her comfort. When she lost her ability to speak, he still talked to her daily. When she could no longer eat, he managed her feeding tube and medications with unwavering devotion. He hired nurses, learned how to operate her machines, and became a full-time caregiver. But perhaps most incredibly, he never placed her in a care facility. Not once. For nearly 3 decades, Glenn Holt made sure Annette could live and die with dignity, surrounded by love, not loneliness. Even after her passing, Glenn stayed on as a board member of her foundation. He organized fundraising events, partnered with medical researchers, and made sure the world didn't forget her. In interviews, he rarely talked about how hard it was. Instead, he talked about how lucky he was to love her. "She was my best friend," he said, "and I would do it all again." Their story isn't just one of illness. It's one of devotion, of purpose, and of 2 people who proved that love, when tested, can become something holy. In 2011, tragedy struck again. Their home, the same house she had lived in for nearly 40 years, caught fire. Annette inhaled smoke and was hospitalized. The house was destroyed. They relocated to a quiet ranch in Bakersfield, far from Hollywood, but close to peace. In her final years, she couldn't move, speak, or eat on her own. She communicated through blinking. Her friend Shelley Fabre visited often. Frankie Avalon stayed in touch with her children. She was no longer America's singing sweetheart, but she was still deeply loved. On April 8, 2013, at the age of 70, Annette Funicello passed away. Her children held her hands. Her family made the decision to remove life support. The world mourned. Disney CEO Bob Iger renamed Soundstage 1, where she had filmed the Mickey Mouse Club, as the Annette Funicello stage. Frankie Avalon said he had watched her disappear piece by piece. "She hadn't communicated in years," he whispered in an emotional interview. "It was a terrible existence, but perhaps the greatest tribute came from those who knew her best. Not the fans who adored her from afar, but the people who stood beside her through every chapter of her life." Fellow Mouseketeer Sharon Baird, who grew up alongside Annette in the whirlwind of early Disney fame, said it best: "She never changed. Not when she was a child star, not when she was famous, not when she lost her voice. That was the magic of Annette Funicello. In an industry built on reinvention, she remained authentically herself. While others chased headlines, she clung to humility. She never needed scandals or reinventions to stay relevant. Her power was in her consistency, her kindness, her loyalty, her refusal to compromise her values, even when it cost her roles or brought whispers behind her back. Hollywood can be brutal, especially for women. Annette saw the darker side of fame early on: jealous co-stars who sabotaged her, producers who tried to sexualize her image, and tabloid vultures who feasted on her silence during her MS diagnosis. But she never lashed out. She never wrote a tell-all. She never exposed the names of those who wronged her, even when it was clear she knew them. She took the high road every time. And yet, her legacy isn't one of quiet suffering. It's one of quiet power. She changed what it meant to be a child star. She helped destigmatize multiple sclerosis by going public with her diagnosis. She built a foundation that continues to fund critical research. And in doing so, she redefined what courage looks like. To Disney fans, she'll always be the girl with the bow in her hair, leading the Mickey Mouse Club. To music lovers, she's the first woman to break the top 10 with a rock and roll hit. To filmgoers, she's the queen of beach movies. But to those who truly knew her, Annette Funicello was something much more rare, a woman who never let fame change her heart. She wasn't just Disney's pet. She wasn't just a pop star. She wasn't just a memory. She was America's heart and always will be.